Lesson 136, line graphs. So today we come to our second type of graph that we're going to spend some time looking at, line graphs. And line graphs are quite similar to bar graphs, so I'm hoping this will be a nice short video for you today. So a lot of similarities between line graphs and bar graphs. The main difference is that line graphs, instead of just comparing, they're showing a change over time. So you use them in slightly different contexts. So here's an example of sales by month. You will notice that down on the horizontal axis, there are the different months, and then the line shows the differences in sales amounts over that time period. So in January, starting low, then there's a spike in February, goes down, etc. You can see the change over time in sales numbers. And just like bar graphs can have two bars, line graphs can have two lines, which is useful if you're comparing more than one thing. So here we're looking at rainfall and temperature over the course of a year, so the change over time. So there are two different lines. And then just like with bar graphs, if you had two bars, for line graphs, if you have two lines, you need to have a key to let the person who's looking at your graph know what each of the lines means. And just like with bar graphs, you can increase your number of lines. So here's a triple line graph showing the population of 3 different areas over a number of years. So the change over time. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is just a few things I probably should have mentioned yesterday because you did have to make a bar graph, but I forgot, so you're getting it now. Whenever you are making a graph, some very important things. Making sure that you are labeling everything and being very, very specific. So every graph that you make should have a title at the top so that we know what the graph is showing. Right here, the title at the top, population in millions. All right. Then you should be labeling your horizontal axis. Today, you will be labeling it with changes over time. So make sure that you're labeling it. If it's in months, it's very, very clear that those are months. If it's hours, we know that it's hours. If it's days, we know that it's days, etc. And then your scale, the same thing. Making sure that you are clearly labeling what numbers need to go there. And then telling us if those numbers have some sort of units behind them. Well, like for instance, okay, if we look back at this one, this is the population in millions. Okay, so it's not that just over 200 people lived in Africa in 1950. It's actually 200 million. So making sure that that important information is there. Or if we jump over here, we were looking at rainfall. The rainfall's in millimeters, or the temperature is in degrees Celsius. So just being really, really careful to label everything so that it's super, super clear. And then just sort of a neatness thing. Let's see if I can do it. I don't know if I can be accurate enough, but so you've labeled something down here. Let's say it's hour 1, something happened. Let's see if I can do it. Ooh, maybe if I make my pen a little bigger so it becomes a dot. Oh no, I can't do it. A little tricky. You hopefully should be able to do it a little bit easier on your piece of paper with a pencil. But just making sure that your dots nicely line up with what they need to, and then connecting them with a nice, neat line. We've actually made line graphs before in social studies, so this shouldn't really be new to you, just a few things to remember and keep in mind. And what was the other thing I needed to say? Oh yes, just like last time, you will have to look on the previous page to look at some graphs to be able to answer your questions. So if you're searching around for graphs, look on the previous page. That is where you will find them.